texted?
I called the rescue and asked if we could shift Sophia's commitment to next weekend, so she'll volunteer.
And our love will be a constant, but our money?
Now that's gonna be
The finance guy, he could have been in bed with anyone. A cartel and oligarch. Why?
Oh, he needs a favor. I can smell that on
Each other. It's that we were only ever supposed to be pals. And so afterwards, we stayed pals.
Yeah, so basically, if you guys don't know, this is actually a very, very interesting new series, and it follows RJ Decter, a former photojournalist and an ex-con trying to rebuild his life as a private investigator in Florida, living in a trailer. He navigates bizarre crimes with a complicated inner circle. That is the whole plot of the series. But before we get into more details regarding the relationship of the two ladies, please don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. So first and foremost, I want to say this is a brand new series that just recently came out. I actually have done and included it in the upcoming lesbian content for May 2026. And to be honest, I didn't have much expectations for it. I thought we were just gonna get another very simple couple with nothing to offer. But it actually surprised me, and I have to say that I'm really happy, but also a little bit, upset regarding the amount of camera time the couple got, as a couple, not as individual, characters, but still very much worth the watch. And we will be breaking down every single thing that happened between these ladies that are actually a married couple. Yes, they are married, they have a family together, and this one is definitely one that does deserve a little bit more of support, because like I said, the story is very simple but also very complex at the same time. So let's get right into it and not waste any more time. So we're gonna start off with the character breakdown. So we're gonna start off with Catherine is RJ Decter's ex-wife. She is an investigative journalist who maintains a fiercely loyal, protective, and deeply platonic friendship with her ex-husband. On the other hand, we have Mel. Mel is Catherine's wife. She works as a police detective at Fort Lauderdale Police Department, and she's also a mother of a young daughter that both of them are basically raising together. In this case, they do have a daughter together. I'm not 100% sure if it's, Mel's daughter that, Catherine already, came into the relationship with, or is the daughter that they conceived together. But more of the story, both of them are, responsible for, in this case, the kid. So basically at the beginning you can see that RJ, in this case, he ends up moving in with them because he was having problems with the place that he was living at. So at the beginning you can see Catherine somehow she still feels guilty for what happened to him, because their marriage didn't work out. They left things the way they did. She felt like she abandoned him when he needed it the most, not even for the fact that they were not together anymore, but just as a friend. So she kind of took him in for him to have a place to stay. Obviously Mel approved it, and you can see that Mel at the beginning, she wasn't very convinced about the situation living with her wife's ex-husband, but she ends up accepting it because at the end of the day she understands that they are just friends and there's nothing that she needs to be worried about. So they kind of got that thing clear from the very beginning. So as they still have their situation going on with RJ, you can see they have their dynamics. In this case, Mel works also with RJ on the investigative cases that they have going on. Catherine also supports with her journalist coverage of the crimes that they do. But I want to focus on what those two the couple actually have going on. So Catherine, her grandma passed away and left her with a good amount of money. On the other hand, we have Mel, who made it very clear that since she was young, she never grew up with money. So she's very, hard on her daughter when it comes to financial responsibilities. And on the other hand, Catherine, she's more liberal. She doesn't care about spending the house that they live in. Catherine was the one to put the money down. Mel somehow feels guilty for her not be able to match, her wife's financial, standards, because, in this case, we can say Mel is a little bit more cheaper, and Catherine, she likes to do nice stuff because she can afford nice stuff. Not that Mel cannot afford it because she is a detective, but because she just deals with financial situations different compared to Catherine. So we can see they're having an argument regarding a situation where their daughter wanted to have a spa thing, and obviously you can see that's where the money conversation came in, where they just couldn't see eye to eye with it. But later on, obviously Catherine realize she might be repeating the same pattern that she did in her ex-marriage when it comes to the financial situation. So she actually ends up setting up this very cute date and explaining to Mel their position in things. And for more of the story, they could figure things out. And obviously, they have set boundaries when it comes to the financial situations in their household. That's moral of the story, the biggest, argument that they have in the house besides RJ. There's another thing you can see that Mel started to feel a little bit bored about the fact that RJ was living with them because she felt like Catherine was starting to get a little bit so much involved in his life, caring about who he's dating, who he's sleeping with, kind of causing a type of jealousy on Catherine to RJ. But later on, Catherine made it very clear she's not jealous. It's just she doesn't want him to fall into the wrong hands and wrong directions again, because somehow she feels guilty for not being there for him, when everything happened. Because once they separated, that's when his whole life started to fumble. And obviously, Catherine took a step back because she started to date Mel, and she didn't want to disrespect her relationship that she was building with her wife because of what her ex-husband is going through. So she said basically what I could take it from it is she was trying to make it clear it's not a jealousy thing. It's just she's being overprotective because she feel like RJ doesn't have nobody there for him and he's alone, and she kind of still feel guilty for what happened to him. So after that, you can see they kind of could clear things up, between them. And then later on, you can see that RJ and Mel, they were not enemies. They get along very well. But I do feel like Mel, being a grown woman, she also doesn't feel comfortable living with the ex-husband of her ex-wife. Sorry, of her wife in this case. So she kind of had an opportunity in her hand, to declare something to make, RJ, in this case, move out of the house. She was actually thinking about it, because RJ has somebody that looks after him. But later on, Mel have decided, you know what, we don't choose family. It is what it is. I'm just gonna deal with the situation because RJ is not a bad guy. He doesn't have bad intentions. He doesn't want my wife. My wife doesn't want him. They have a platonic friendship because they were married, they share the history, and they somehow still care about each other, but not in a romantic way. So I'm not gonna interfere in this and trying to make it about me and what I want and go behind my wife's back. So at the end, she kind of do accept the conditions. Obviously, RJ ends up moving out eventually, and he moves into his own place, and he starts his own life, apart, in a way from the couple. More of the story, like I said, one thing that besides the money situation and RJ situation, I don't feel like we get a little more of them when it comes to their storyline together as a couple. Obviously, they have their own storylines individual when it comes to one being a detective, one being a journalist, and also both of them being mothers, which we also get little content about. But yes, still very good, still 100% worth to watch. If you guys want to watch it, I will highly recommend you also go to Disney Plus and Movistar Plus. There you guys will find the full series. If I'm not mistaken, it has 9 episodes, 9 or 8 episodes, and we can see glimpse of the couple together. Very good, very strong. And if you haven't watched it, you are definitely missing out on it. And if you have watched it as well, please let me know your thoughts on it. Hopefully we will get a season 2, and hopefully season 2 we can see more of the couple together.